The European Space Agency is a 23-member international organization devoted to space exploration. The ESA was founded in 1975 in the context of European integration. The ESA human spaceflight program includes participation in the International Space Station and collaboration with NASA on the Artemis program, especially manufacturing of the Orion spacecraft's European service model. The treaty establishing the European Space Agency reads, "The purpose of the agency shall be to provide for and to promote for exclusively peaceful purposes, cooperation among European states in space research and technology, and their space applications with a view to their being used for scientific purposes and for operational space applications systems." Jean-Jacques Dordain, who we're going to get into in just a little bit, the European Space Agency's Director General from 2003 to 2015, outlined the European Space Agency's mission in a 2003 interview. Today, space activities have pursued the benefit of citizens, and citizens are asking for a better quality of life on Earth. They want greater security and economic wealth. But they also want to pursue their dreams, to increase their knowledge, and they want younger people to be attracted to the pursuit of science and technology. I think that space can do all of this. It can produce a higher quality of life, better security, more economic wealth, and also fulfill our citizens' dreams and thirst for knowledge, and attract the young generation. This is the reason space exploration is an integral part of overall space activities. It has always been so, and will even be more important in the future. This video made on April 20th, 7:26 p.m. It's about the EU, the ESA, and how space exploration will bring about internationalism. After World War II, many European scientists left Western Europe to work with the United States. Although the 1950s boom made it possible for Western European countries to invest in research and specifically in space-related activities, Western European scientists realized solely national projects would not be able to compete with two superpowers. That could be propaganda, if you will, discrediting nationalism for the sake of the broader picture, that is creating a European Union, that is creating internationalism. In 1958, only months after the Sputnik shock, Eduardo Amaldi and Pierre Auger, two prominent members of the Western European scientific community, met to discuss the foundation of a common Western European Space Agency. The meeting was attended by scientific representatives from 8 countries. The Western European nations decided to have 2 agencies, one concerned with developing a launch system, ELDO, European Launcher Development Organization, of which Renzo Carabio di Carabio became the first Secretary General from 1964 to 1971, and the other, the precursor of the European Space Agency, ESRO, European Space Research Organization, led by Pierre Auger. The latter was established on 20th March 1964 by an agreement signed on 14 June 1962. From 1968 to 1972, ESRO launched 7 research satellites, but ELDO was not able to deliver a launch vehicle. Both agencies struggled with the underfunding and divergent interests of their participants. So we have another slight agenda propaganda that is diverging because there's so much countries and nations in this project. Then comes Jean-Jacques Dordain, whose prominent role was to get everybody united with a common goal. So when we look at Jean-Jacques Dordain, Dordain is a French scientist born in 1946, and he's a scientist specializing in aerospace. He was Director General of the European Space Agency between 2003 to 2015. He also holds the honorary function of Chancellor of the International Space University. So there we go. Again, we have another hint at internationalism. As of 2025, Dordain heads the board of the Kármán Project, a global fellowship program for space industry leaders headquartered in Berlin. The Kármán Project is a global one-year fellowship program for leaders in the space industry founded in 2020. Another hint at globalism, at internationalism. The Kármán Project is designed to foster trust, independent dialogue, cooperation, and diplomacy among their fellows. "15 leaders in the space industry aged 15 to 45 who have achieved outstanding professional accomplishments in space are selected each year from some of the most impactful space organizations and companies in the world." Whoa, look at this. In June 2025, Kármán announced the world's first cultural payload to the International Space Station, sending seeds to space of culturally important crops. These included Egyptian cotton, Armenian pomegranate, Nigerian egusi melon, Pakistani wheat. And we take a look at the International Space University. It is dedicated to the discovery, research, and development of outer space and its applications for peaceful purposes. They always talk about peace. It's all for peaceful purposes, for world peace. But our quote-unquote world peace will be their world domination through international and multidisciplinary education and research programs. In 1985, space enthusiasts Peter Diamandis, Todd Hawley, and Robert D. Richards created the Space Generation Foundation with the aim of fostering a sense of identity for people born since the beginning of the space era. One of the ideas developed by the foundation was for a dedicated space university, which gained the support of a number of well-known figures in the space field, including U.R. Rao, Harrison, Schmidt, Burton, Edelson, Gerard K. O'Neill, Herman O. Berth, and Arthur C. Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke, this guy's a Freemason. Sir Arthur Charles Clarke was an English science fiction writer, futurist, inventor. All of these futurists are all about space exploration. Inventor, undersea explorer, and television series host. And if you want some evidence on that, Alan Watt explains the movie 2001 A Space Odyssey. In the movie 2001, Arthur C. Clarke, a very high Freemason, gives you the agenda of high Freemasonry. Arthur C. Clarke, author of the book, described as a very high Freemason who shared Masonic philosophy, one of spiritual and as well as physical evolution, in movie according to Watt. Arthur C. Clarke, Arthur Charles Clarke, was a British mind-controlled science fiction writer used in the Hollywood film industry to normalize the Masonic sodomy and pedophilia religion and to announce the COVID-19 ritual. Yeah, I thought the Freemasons had on their website, they had enlisted him as a Masonic member, but I guess I can't find it. Well, let's go on to more important things. So, we're a little bit past Jean-Jacques Dordain. Now we're at a Pierre Auger, right? This little fool right here. Well, he's not a fool, but I mean, he's not one of us. That's for sure. Okay, so in 1958, two prominent members of the Western European scientific community met to discuss the foundation of a common Western European space agency. One of them was Eduardo Amaldi and Pierre Auger. Pierre Auger was a French physicist born in Paris. He worked in the fields of atomic physics, nuclear physics, and cosmic ray physics. He is famous for being one of the discoverers of the Auger effect, named after him. He was charged with, until 1940, the course of the experimental basis of the quantum theory within the chair of theoretical physics and astrophysics. He then occupied the chair of quantum physics and relativity of the Faculté des Sciences of Paris. The reason why I'm reading this about quantum theory and about quantum physics is because artificial intelligence, the nature of artificial intelligence is of quantum physics. The internet works off of quantum physics and space exploration. Artificial intelligence, it's all quantum mechanics, the lowest branch of science. And this is what the occult studies, this is what they believe in. This is where they get their sense of magic from. the Enlightenment from, the New Age religion philosophy. This is like the science aspect of the philosophy of the occult, of these mystery religions, of pagan religions, of the secret societies. They believe in all is one, one is all. And the scientific aspect of it is explained in quantum mechanics. He was the European Space Research Organization first Director General and one of the forefathers for the CERN Foundation. He was president of the Centre International de Calcul, Rome. From 1948 to 1959, he directed at UNESCO, the Department of Mathematical and Natural Sciences. UNESCO is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, which is a specialized agency of the United Nations with the aim of promoting world peace and security through international cooperation in education, arts, sciences, and culture. So they plan to use these studies in all these fields to inspire humanity towards globalism. They call it international cooperation and collaboration just for like friendly or peaceful purposes, to not put you on high alert. But no, this will be globalism. I mean, this depiction right here is like, this pyramid is basically what we have on the back of our dollar bill, of our American dollar, of the United States $1 bill. So and CERN is an intergovernmental organization that operates the largest particle physics laboratory in the world. Intergovernmental, internet, interconnected. Intergovernmentalism, if that's even a word, will lead to multiculturalism, multinationalism. To multi-government institutions. Established in 1954, it is based in Meyrin, a western suburb of Geneva, on the France-Switzerland border. Switzerland, they're home to like almost all of the multilateral institutions, okay? It comprises 25 member states. Israel, admitted in 2013, is the only full member of geographically out of Europe. And get this, CERN is an official United Nations General Assembly observer. As researchers require remote access to these facilities, the lab has historically been a major wide area network hub. CERN is also the birthplace of the World Wide Web. The United Nations General Assembly has granted observer status to international organizations, entities, and non-member states to enable them to participate in the work of the United Nations General Assembly, though with limitations. The convention The convention establishing CERN was ratified on 29 September 1954 by 12 countries in Western Europe. The acronym CERN originally represented the French words for Conseil Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire. European Council for Nuclear Research. Okay, I'm not French. I'm American. So don't tease about I can't pronounce this shit. Okay, which was provisional council for building the laboratory established by 12 European governments in 1952. During these early years, the council worked at the University of Copenhagen, under the direction of Niels Bohr, before moving to its present site near Geneva. CERN's first president was Sir Benjamin Lockspeiser. Eduardo Amaldi was the general secretary of CERN at its earliest stages when operations were still provisional, and the first director general was Felix Bloch. Eduardo Amaldi, as we know, he was part of the Western European scientific community, and he also consulted with Peter Auger, and they wanted to form a common Western European space agency to unite, because they felt that solely national projects couldn't compete with the US and another country after World War II, after Nazi Germany. Now, after World War II, that's whenever, democracy, anti-populism, anti-racism, internationalism, mass migration, that's whenever all that took effect. And their narrative to avoid another worldwide catastrophe, a world war. So they blame all of these wars on nationalism, on the nation state, and thus they want to create a more integrated, interconnected world for the sake of fostering a sense of identity, so that people won't bicker amongst each other. But we all know that'll lead to more bickering, because people want to be themselves. Every country wants to be its own country. So CERN in its early stages was under the direction of Niels Bohr. Niels Bohr was a Danish theoretical physicist who made foundational contributions to understanding atomic structure and quantum theory, for which he received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1922. He was also a philosopher and promoter of scientific research. During the 1930s, Bohr helped refugees from Nazism. After Denmark was occupied by the Germans, he met with Heisenberg, who had become the head of the German nuclear weapon project. After the war, Bohr called for international cooperation on nuclear energy. He was involved, so nuclear energy the creation of atomic bombs and nuclear bombs, it calls for international cooperation, lest world wars happen. He was involved in the establishment of CERN and the research establishment rise of the Danish Atomic Energy Commission. And quantum mechanics is the science aspect of the New Age religion. They say that they coexist religion, they coexist philosophy. We're all one. We're all made of the same stardust that you see in space. It's all an illusion that you and I feel separated, that we feel divided. We are not divided. All of this new age terminology. You are him, you are her. Kind of like what Hulk Hogan said in a CBN interview before he died. Supposedly he turned Christian. And he says, God is here, God is there. He was basically explaining polytheism. And he even said that in front of a New World Order mannequin. A mannequin that was wearing the New World Order wrestling team shirt. That's total blasphemy. But yeah, Christianity is infiltrated by Zionism, by the Jews, by it's infiltrated religion. Always has been, because all roads lead back to Rome. Christianity and the Bible are two very different things. But he even says that you are God, I am God. Everything is God. I learned that in theology at the Jesuit school that I went to. I remember the priest talking about that, about that concept that God is everywhere. You can find God in all things, supposedly. And quantum mechanics, that again is the science aspect of the singularity. Quantum mechanics is the fundamental physical theory that describes the behavior of matter and of light. Its unusual characteristics typically occur at and below the scale of atoms. It is the foundation of all quantum physics, which includes quantum chemistry, quantum biology, quantum field theory, quantum technology, and quantum information science. Quantum mechanics can describe many systems that classical physics cannot. Classical physics can describe many aspects of nature at an ordinary macroscopic and optical microscopic scale. However, it is insufficient for describing them at very small submicroscopic, atomic, and subatomic scales. Classical mechanics can be derived from quantum mechanics as an approximation that is valid at ordinary scales. Quantum systems have bound states that are quantized to discrete values of energy, momentum, angular momentum, and other quantities, in contrast to classical systems where these quantities can be measured continuously. Measurements of quantum systems show characteristics of both particles and waves. Wave-particle duality. Can that be indicative, a sign, a resemblance of Masonic philosophy? How they purport to duality, black and white, yin and yang, and there are limits to how accurately the value of a physical quantity can be predicted prior to its measurement, given a complete set of initial conditions, the uncertainty principle. So we talked about the European Space Agency, about how they were founded in 1975 and in the context of European integration. Now we're going to look at European integration. Matter of fact, let's go back to Jean-Jacques Dordain. Here's what Jean-Jacques Dordain said in a 2005 interview, I believe. 2005. In an article written by Syracuse University's editor, W. Henry Lambright, we see he wrote as an abstract. In 2015, Jean-Jacques Dordain retired as Director General of the European Space Agency. This is Europe's NASA and includes a host of sovereign nations that differ in language, culture, economics, and politics. As ESA's Director General, Dordain pulled together a desperate and often quarreling group of countries and got them moving in the same direction. Billions of dollars were involved in a sequence of large-scale complex space flights. Successes far surpassed failures. Dordain stated that if there is one area of administration about which ESA could teach the world, it is that of international cooperation. Very simple, it's because ESA is an institutional cooperation venture. He even said it himself. The European Space Agency is an institutional cooperation venture. All of these goddamn institutions that mind control us, that brain fuck us. In this administrative profile, Dordain comments on the issues he faced in guiding European cooperation as well as relations with the United States and other countries. When he retired, the trade journal Space News 2015 editorialized as follows: leadership can be defined as the ability to get multiple parties to work together toward a common goal, a quality that doesn't come easy when the parties in question are sovereign countries, each with its own unique history, financial wherewithal, scientific and industrial agenda, and national pride. But the quality was regularly on display during Jean-Jacques Dordain's 12 years at the helm of the European Space Agency. Dordain stated that if there is one area of administration about which ESA could teach the world, it is that of international cooperation. Very simple, it's because ESA is an international cooperation venture. The aim is to learn more about leadership across international boundaries, a subject of growing interest and significance everywhere in public administration today. Yeah, it was a subject of growing interest, especially among Democrats and liberals and progressives, and it started growing in influence after World War II because, again, nationalism, populism was blamed. World wars happen, the Democrats say, because of nationalism, because of patriotic pride. And in order to avoid another world war, you have to do away with nationalism, with patriotic pride. You have to foster a sense of common identity between people, between the people of the world, hence global citizen. So yeah, that was a 2005 interview. So yeah, founded in 1975 in the context of European integration. European integration is the process of political, legal, social, and regional and economic integration of states wholly or partially in Europe or nearby. European integration has primarily, but not exclusively, come about through the European Union and its policies, and can include cultural assimilation and centralization. The history of European integration is marked by the Roman Empire's consolidation of the European continent, which set a precedent for the notion of a unified Europe. This idea was echoed through attempts at unity such as the Holy Roman Empire, the Hanseatic League, and the First French Empire. The devastation of World War I reignited the concept of a unified Europe. Problem, reaction, solution, ordo ab chaos. Order out of chaos. Wars are come about through division, aka nationalism, and in order to inspire unity, internationalism, we have to bring people together, and you have to compromise and forsake your sense of individual identity, your patriotic pride for universal pride. That's why they want to bring about Unitarianism, universalism, leading to the establishment of international organizations aimed at political coordination across Europe. The interwar period saw politicians such as Richard von Coudenhove, Callerly, and Aristide Briand brained advocating for European unity, albeit with differing visions. Post-World War II Europe saw a significant push towards integration, with Winston Churchill's call for a United States of Europe in 1946 being a notable example. This period saw the formation of theories around European integration, categorizing into proto-integration, explaining integration, analyzing governance, and constructing the EU, reflecting a shift from viewing European integration as a unique process to incorporating broader international relations and comparative politics theories. Yeah, Winston Churchill, he was a Freemason too. And we all know, if you don't, Masons conspire with Jews. They believe in this concept of universal brotherhood, of a universal fraternity, of the brotherhood of men. Global citizenship. Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was a British politician who was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1940 to 1945, and again from 1951 to 1955. Scottish Rite. A writer, soldier, Prime Minister of England, and Freemason, Winston Churchill remains a matchless, venerated figure in world history. A great leader, writer, and Freemason, Winston Churchill's many accomplishments made him a titan of history and embodiment of Masonic principles. In antiquity, the Roman Empire brought about integration of multiple European and Mediterranean territories. The numerous subsequent claims of the succession of the Roman Empire, even the iterations of the Classical Empire and its ancient peoples, have occasionally been reinterpreted in the light of post-1950 European integration as providing inspiration and historical precedents. Important examples include the Holy Roman Empire, the Hanseatic League, the Peace of Westphalia, the Napoleonic Empire, and the unification of Germany, Italy, and the Balkans, as well as the Latin Monetary Union. Following the catastrophe of the First World War of 1914 and 1918, thinkers and visionaries from a range of political traditions again began to float the idea of a politically unified Europe. In the early 1920s, a range of international organizations were founded or refounded to help like-minded political parties to coordinate their activities. These ranged from the Comintern to the Labor and Socialist International to the Radical and Democratic Entente of center-left progressive parties to the Green International of Farmers' Parties to the center-right International Secretariat of Democratic Parties inspired by Christianity. While the remit of these international bodies was global, the predominance of political parties from Europe meant that they facilitated interaction between the adherents of a given ideology across European borders. But then each political tradition voices emerged, advocating not merely the cooperation of various national parties, but the pursuit of political institutions at the European level. One of the first to articulate this view was Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi, who outlined a conservative vision of the European unity in his Pan-Europa Manifesto. Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi was also a Freemason. In 1922, in Vienna, Count Richard Nicholas Coudenhove Kalergi was initiated as a Freemason in the Humanitas Lodge, and then in the Mozart chapter of the 18th degree Prince Rose Cross of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. I couldn't find any more info about Coudenhove being in Freemasonry, except from this website right here, Ecclesiastical Freemasonry, Masonic Europeanism. The French scholar Yves Hivert Messica also states that in the 18th century, Masons dreamt of a transnational and transconfessional society, fraternity, that is, a new Europe. Professor Gianmario Cazzaniga, a scholar appreciated by the Grand Orient of Italy, explains how the idea of a universal republic was prepared between the 17th and 18th centuries through a republic of letters and sciences, that is a cultural network of writers, nobles, publishers, antique dealers, scientists, promoted by Huguenot circles, by Protestant and non-Protestant finance, Geneva, Amsterdam, London, and by the Masonry lodges of 1717. It is logical to deduce that the realization of a European or universal republic, according to Masonic principles, was the plan, or at least the hope, of obtaining the socio-cultural transformation, according to Masonic principles, of secularism and anti-dogmatism, and or the revolution of political military demolition of Catholic confessional monarchies and the papal states of the time.